Hi there, welcome to the Accidental Pop Star here on YouTube. My name is Ali Beg. So, before I introduce my guest, just let me put everything into context for you. What do I do? Well, I quite simply interview pop stars, both past and present. Now, what gives me the right to do that? Well, I was an accidental pop star, hence the name of the channel. As you can see from behind me, I was once a member of a 90s boy band called Bad Boys Inc. We had success in the UK and internationally, but as quickly as we appeared, it was just as quick that we disappeared. So what I do is I just chat to folk, interview them, if you like, about their own careers and path in the industry, and just see if we can try and find if the DNA fits. So for this episode, I'm absolutely thrilled to welcome to the show a bit of an 80s icon, Thereza Bazar from Dollar. Do you remember them? Dollar were a man and woman duet with David Van Day. They were huge in the 70s, massive in the 1980s. And what was really unique about them was that there wasn't really a male and female duet around at that time. They were fantastic. I really enjoyed talking to Thereza, and I really hope you also enjoy the chat. She's got a fascinating story. Welcome to the accidental pop star, Thereza Bazar from Dollar. Hi Thereza, it's absolutely lovely to see you and lovely to meet you. Thank you so much for being here. How are you?
I'm great, Ali. How are you? And thank you for inviting me. Gorgeous accent, gorgeous looking bloke. I mean, seriously, I've
Thank
got
you.
more
Thank you. God, you're
things.
making me blush even before we start.
Good. Oh, we're going
Okay.
to have some fun. Of course we are.
Yeah, we will. Absolutely. We've got so much to talk about as well. But can I take you right back to the beginning, right back to sort of your youth? When you were growing up, the musical world around you, what made you decide, right, performing is what I want to do?
So, it's a great question. I've been asked it lots of times before, but it always kind of makes me stop and think, what? And when I was a little girl, I was 2.5 years old, and I'll keep all the answers as short as I can without meandering, that my sister, 4.5 years older than me, went to ballet school. And I tagged along, my mum took her, and I refused to leave because I heard this music and kind of I was entranced. So the teacher was so loving and said, well, if she stands at the back and doesn't make a sound and copies, she can stay. So I started ballet at 2.5, and it was a huge passion of mine. Hit the perfectionism in me. I was a perfectionist in me, and classical music I still adore. And then, of course, things went on from one thing to another. My dad, late dad, professional, can't speak tonight, jazz guitarist.
Hmm.
And so always Ella or Joe Pass or Frank playing or something like that. So I had that kind of fusion. And then my sister, being older, she started listening to the Beatles, and I kind of went, oh, okay. And I had a job when I was 15, stacking shelves in a supermarket, and I got promoted to make sandwiches for the staff. So I was upstairs in the canteen. That was what happened back in my day, in my youth. And they had this pipe music, but it was a radio program, and they played the Carpenters.
Yeah.
And I went, oh wow. And that's when I heard about harmonies and pop music. And yeah, that kind of was a really big turning point for me, the
Hmm.
Carpenters.
Let's skip forward a wee bit to the time that you were in Guys and Dolls. What I'd like to know about your time with the band is what did you learn about how the industry worked and how it shaped your ideology of the industry?
Uh, couldn't believe how misogynistic it was, even though I was a very conservative, very shy teenager,
Hmm.
but had a good education. So I kind of thought this can't, and then the ruthlessness, and also just just how as artists or singers, and I started writing songs before I joined Guys and Dolls, but how we never really got to have a say in anything. So we were just absolutely manipulated and a tool, a marketing tool for the record companies and the management. And even back then, I sort of thought, it's not right.
That that resonates because when I was doing the research for today's chat, and it says online, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but it said that you were dismissed from Guys and Dolls,
Yeah,
which
we
I
were
found
sacked.
very okay. I found that really interesting because it says that you were dismissed because you and David spoke up. So my question to you is, why do you think record company executives and management have such a fear of artists speaking up?
Greed.
Mm,
I think it's greed because I did speak up and we did get thrown out, which is actually the best thing that could have ever happened. But who
for
would
sure.
know? I was completely devastated, heartbroken. Uh, but the thing is, it was only with the best intentions to, it was all about the music, about the wrong direction, not being forward thinking, about changing, moving on, being aware of what's happening around us. The American market was calling, all those things, but they were so greedy with the cash cow they created. And no one wanted to take a chance. So it's just greed.
Mm. Well, you got,
And
sorry,
and
go ahead.
probably greed and probably a lack of real talent in being a manager or a label. I
Yeah.
mean, it's just the people we were with weren't good enough.
Mm. See, because you guys had hits and you were doing really well. So again, I'm quite
Yeah.
intrigued to know how, from purely from a wage point of view, were you guys paid a wage? How did that all work for you? How did you get paid?
We were working 48 weeks of the year and recording. And we went to record the first album because we had three hits. We needed an album. We recorded the album in a week. We went
Did
to a
you?
residential studio. We all had our bedrooms, and there was a rota that was created. And we would be sent to go to sleep, and someone would knock on the door and say, your session's starting in half an hour. And it would be 11 o'clock at night. It would be 6 o'clock in the morning. We did around the clock stuff,
Wow.
like conveyor belt stuff, like we're working in a sort of a packing factory or something. It was just hysterical. Um, yeah, just hysterical to sort of think that that's what happened. And we got paid for all of what we were doing. We
Mm.
got paid £50 a week.
How much?
50, 50 pounds a week.
You got
And our
£50
royalty,
a week.
50
Oh
pounds
my
a week.
God.
This was 1974, but even if you Google that, you'd kind of see what it was. And we were given as a band, which was six people, 3% for artist royalties. So we got 0.5% each.
Yeah. Yeah. It's standard, isn't it?
Yeah, I
It's
don't know, but it's just but the thing is, it's a power play.
yeah.
Because when you have nothing and you've been given this chance, I mean, basically, still most people, unless they're so strong, would go, I'll bite your hand off, I'll pay you just for the chance, for the opportunity.
Mm,
And it's not about the stuff. Well, for some people, it's the fame and the glory and the stardom. Others, it's about trying to share their creativity and their music and stuff. But it's still a chance, a door opening, and kind of if there's no integrity in a business world, then what are you going to do?
mm,
Nothing to sort of negotiate with, have you?
yeah. How did you find the transition from leaving Guys and Dolls to then deciding with David, right, let's go out together and form this new band called Dollar? How was that transition?
Oh, it was horrible. I mean,
Was it?
I mean, we were girlfriend, boyfriend, my first boyfriend. So it was a big thing. We're on our own, suddenly with all the structure, roadies coming to get you. We're going off here, we're playing this tonight, we're going to this, big club. There were cabaret venues then, and a lot of them anyway. And so kind of cut cut adrift. And so I pretend because David always wanted to be, that's partly why we got thrown out. He always wanted to be a solo artist. I
Okay.
had no wish to be a solo artist ever. Very happy in a group. I'm a synergy kind of person. And so I pretended to be his secretary. And I'd be phoning up all the record companies on his behalf, going, "Hello, I'm David Van Day's secretary. My name is whatever, Jacinta or something, I don't know." And I go, he's with that wonderful group. And I do the whole spiel, sell, and try and get him an appointment to go and speak to the A&R guys. And sometimes I was very successful, but he didn't get any offers. And in the meantime, I was offered a solo recording deal from EMI in Holland.
All right.
EMV, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And they called me and they're talking to me. I'm going, no, 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 you've got the wrong person here. I don't want to be a solo artist. He's the one that always wanted to be. I just said, no, thank you. Didn't even think about it. I had one comment, I just went, no, thanks. I don't want to do that. So he kind of trundled on a bit and really wasn't hitting the right notes in any of these sort of meetings. And
Mm.
then we ended up meeting up with this radio plugger who did a fair amount of Radio 1 plugging. So obviously Radio 1 was so dominant, BBC Radio 1 in the day.
Mm.
And he said, look, I've just met up with this guy and we're forming a management company. And we know of this new company that's being formed. It's funded by a shipping company. And how about if you two thought about being a duo? I remember very clearly. He said, because Greece was so popular at the time. He said, we don't know, you've got Donny and Marie over there, and you've got Greece going on, but we don't have a girl-boy duo. There was nobody. And he said, how about we sell you as a girl-boy duo?
Yeah.
And then he said, have you got any songs? I said, well, I have a couple of demos I've been writing, and they were girl-boy ones because I got David to sort of sing along. And they took these demos along and they just offered us a record deal.
So did it feel natural? Did it feel organic?
Not really.
No.
Just a bit desperate by then. I think I would have I think I would have done anything. So I just didn't know what to do. I mean, what do you do when you know you've got something, but no one's listening?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And the public can't vote with their cash in their pockets
Mm.
because they don't, you're a well-kept secret, and that's the problem, isn't it?
Mm.
Not nowadays. Nowadays, so much more control, which I'm so thrilled about, but not then.
Yeah.
So it was a bit weird, and David wasn't really happy. And I think I almost must have said to him, so obviously with girlfriend, but I said, don't worry, darling, I won't get many camera shots. It's fine. It's all about you. I'll be the fluff around the edges kind of thing. So
Okay.
just
Because you guys, in the late 70s, let's go back to the late 70s, you have almost
yeah.
like an immediate impact. It really starts to work. Can you remember, and I appreciate it's a long time ago, but can you remember sort of the promotional tool that was put in place to start selling you guys and to start promoting your records? And did you ever get involved in any sort of decision making?
So we got signed by the head of the label was ex EMI, still friends to this day, Chris Yule,
Mm.
who to my mind has one of the very best musical ears in the business. He was so incredible, and he created this idea and paired us up with, of course, as the stars aligned. David Courtney had a couple of songs that was sitting there, and Christopher Neal's producer, had just done the Marshall Hayne record that was so breakthrough in its sounds and very different, Dancing in the City. And Chris was meant to be producing another artist that had just been signed, and then the timings weren't working. So Chris Yule goes, well, you'll work with him and you'll have these two songs. Have a listen. Do you like them? I said, yeah, they're great. Okay, that's it. And it was very casual because it was a family. And we started recording these songs, and I suddenly thought they're cool. It wasn't anything like Guys and Dolls. Melodically, there was stuff that it was the beginning of the synth era, which of course is my passion anyway.
Yeah.
And it was like ear candy to me. I was so excited. And Chris Neal as a producer, very much into backing vocals and interesting little nuances. So we hit it off really well. And sort of an adventure. But Chris Yule was so futuristic as the head of the label that I think they were the first pop act to make a music video.
Okay.
The Shooting Star. He went, "You're going to be filmed." I said, "What do you mean? It's a show." He said, "No." He said, "You're going into the studio and there's this person going to be there just with a camera, two cameras, and he's going to film you recording, and then we're going to have it so we can show you to people." And I went, "Oh." And I actually, and the image, and I said, "Well, it's starry, isn't it?" And because when Olivia Newton-John came out as Sandy
Yeah.
in the black, I'm wearing the same thing because I
Re-
was, yeah, because that's where I took it. I thought, wow, she looks fantastic. I thought, I want to be her. And I thought, well, I'll try and be her.
That's such
And
forward thinking, isn't it?
it was just, and it was literally in Soho in London. It was an artist studio just with blacks, nothing at all. And he had a still camera on a tripod straight ahead. And he had another camera still on a tripod. There was nothing handheld at
Mhm.
a different angle. And he did about four different recordings. And then he went away and edited it. That was it. And his lighting. That's all it was.
That's so cool because it must have had an impact because in
It
terms of selling you from your image point of view and all of that, how to market you to get you out to as many people as he possibly could.
Yeah.
That's genius because obviously music videos became an integral part to a
Yeah.
band's success.
Yeah, but you wouldn't have thought that we'd be sort of the ones to be the pioneers. Well, it was not us, it was Chris Yule, but you would have thought it would be people much more trendier out there. So, or I don't know, whoever it was. It could have been Culture Club or George or somebody, but far bigger. But that wasn't it. It was more the medium
Yeah,
itself,
yeah.
the tool that just he happened to just jump on it so quickly.
Yeah, genius.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
I'll tell him you said that. I'll send him a message after this interview
Please do.
because
Absolutely. It's absolutely
he was
astonishing. I never knew
so
that.
far
It's
ahead in
fantastic.
his sounds and ideas. Yeah.
It's brilliant. I love all that. Obviously, with success and having chart positions and all that sort of stuff comes a level of fame. And your profile, your both of yours, your profile is now improving. It's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. How did you cope with it? How did you feel about it at the time?
Um, I sort of created a split personality.
Mm,
And so myself, the real me, I became very protective of myself and very true to myself. And would try and hide myself away if I couldn't just really decompress and be myself. And I had a very clear image of what I really wanted to be, but I never really would be that person for my external sort of public persona. And I think that's how I sort of kept myself sane a lot of the time, except for a few times, like when I went up to buy some cheddar cheese on a Sunday and I had my hair in a ponytail and I just had some trackies on and a don't know, a jacket or something, really no makeup, and wandered into Waitrose, I think it was, in North London, and went to the cheese counter back in the day when they actually still cut the cheese, and yeah, and the woman said, and I went, "Please," she goes, "Well, I didn't like what you wore on top of the pops on Thursday." And of
right.
course, I was so unprepared because I didn't have my face on. I didn't look smart and glamorous. I was just literally walking up the road to get some cheese. And I wasn't prepared for it. And I actually, sort of my chin started to wobble. I went, "Oh gosh," I said, "I'm so sorry. Um, I'll try and get it better next time." And I'm apologizing to the lady on the cheese counter because I didn't know what to say. It's
Yeah.
kind of funny, isn't it?
Yeah.
Vulnerability when you're not prepared.
Yeah. Uh, Let me digress. Let me digress on this slightly. I'll come back to, the support that hopefully you guys had, if you had it at all. But can I digress slightly? I always think that for girls and for women, particularly in the industry, there is far much more pressure in terms of image. I think for guys, we can get away with it, but I think for you, you can't. And I think it's hugely unfair if, for example, a hair is out of place or if your makeup isn't quite right. And as you've just mentioned, somebody doesn't like an item of clothing that you're wearing, somebody somewhere is always going to judge you. And I think
Mhm.
it's hugely unfair. And I think it adds unnecessary pressure. Did you feel that?
Oh, absolutely. I used to watch all the TV shows, well, for a good 2, 3 years, so like my confidence or my skin thickened. It wasn't my confidence, my skin thickened. I used to watch hiding behind the sofa, just like ducking my head out,
Mm,
just to make sure, because you just don't know. And did we have any help or advice? No.
no.
I mean, everyone would have thought, oh, you've got your wardrobe people to help you and take you shopping or make you clothes in an instant or come up with beautiful ideas. Definitely not. And the thing was, because I was trying to be authentic. Well, I've always tried to be authentic, which means I just want to be the best version of me, which was
Of course.
glamorous and shiny and a little bit sexy and a little bit this, which was all of those things that I wasn't really positive about in a way. So it's like living out a dream.
Mm,
But everyone else, Susie and the Banshees and Toya and Kate Bush and Kim, they're either rocky or they're punk, post-punk, or but everyone's got something really much stronger to hook it on. Whereas we were just meant to be the boy meets girl kind of next door, but more glamorous. So of course, therefore, we must be cheesy and but really just trying to be likable and nice.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
it's funny, isn't it?
yeah.
It's a weird thing.
You're
It
almost, it's almost like I found this. It's almost like you're learning on the job how to cope with fame and people calling you a celebrity and all of that, which I absolutely detested. I hated it. But
yeah,
I felt I was learning on the job and not really being guided by anybody.
never got guided, never,
Yeah, yeah.
never. But I used to marvel. I remember bumping into Susie once and just staring at her makeup and thinking, oh my gosh, how long does it take her to do that? But it was beautiful and perfect. She was
Yeah,
so nice and
yeah,
kind.
yeah. She was
But,
amazing.
and then you kind of think, all these people are so different behind their face, but they've got a bigger face,
Yeah.
more protection. And I'm thinking, I need more protection. It's a weird thing.
Mm. Can I ask you about Trevor Horn and the
Oh,
influence that he had on you guys? And did you feel a shift in levels of production as soon as you started working with him?
oh my gosh. Well, how long have we got? I could talk about you for days and days and weeks. Uh, it was one of the best moments of my life.
Yeah.
Just, I mean, I kind of stalked him, which is a bit weird. I didn't know what stalking was in the day, but I heard video. I mean, I still don't, but yeah, no, anyway, but you know what I mean. I heard, but it's all about the sounds. How can you fall in love with a bass drum sound? Hear it on the radio. I think I've been very busy doing something, so I'd missed Video Killed the Radio Star as a on the radio. I hadn't been listening. And I was in my car and I heard it. And I remember stopping the car. I was in the West End in London. And I just went, what is that?
Yeah.
And I just heard, and I went, and then I started listening. I went, that's it. Whoever that is, I want that. I fell in love with sound. And in those days, I managed to find out where he was and managed to get them to give me a number. And I phoned him. And people picked up the phone then. They just did. And that's what, or maybe it was Jill Sinclair, maybe it was Jill. I can't quite recall that. But and I just said, look, would Trevor just consider just coming to have a chat? Maybe we could just meet for lunch or something and talk about a few things. And so she and he said yes. And we went to a sushi little restaurant in Brewer Street in London. Well, that was pretty early on in the day as well,
Mm.
to eat sushi back in 1980,
Yeah.
1981, as we met in Brewer Street. And He wasn't really that interested. He didn't appear to be interested. And then he sort of, we're talking about a bit about music. And then he said, well, what plans have you got? I said, oh, we're going to Tokyo. We're going to be representing the UK at the Yamaha Music Festival. And I said, Tokyo. And his eyes just kind of sparked up behind his glasses. And he went, Tokyo, Japan. I went, yeah. He said, oh. And I said, yeah, it would be interesting. And I said, we're just doing this and that. And we had to start. And then I thought, I kind of was trying to see if it was going anywhere, and it was. And he said, look, I'm writing with a writing partner this evening. And if anything comes up, I'll call you. And I kind of went, oh, thank you. Very polite, always not pushy. And I went home pretty sad, thinking, well, that didn't go very well, did it? I was hoping he was going to go, of course, I want to make a record with
Yeah,
you.
yeah, yeah.
And went home a bit flat. And the next day he called and he went, look, he said, I had this writing session last night with my writing partner, Bruce, and it's Bruce Woolley. And he said, we came up with these couple of songs and we thought if you had the time, maybe you could pop over and put some vocals on them. And I went, really? You know, really, really? He went, yeah. And I went, and I'm so enthusiastic, you can probably tell, always. I can't help it. I just am. And so we went. And of course, handheld in black and white. On a ticket, Tokyo return is the opening line. That's how they wrote it. Handheld on a
Brilliant.
ticket, Tokyo return, because he suddenly thought, you know, palace some evenings palaces that burn. So it just was one thing to ignite it, and that was it. And the two demos, and the other one, of course, was Mirror Mirror. Can you
Mm,
imagine?
mm.
One evening, both of them. But the two demos that they put down onto their 8-track or whatever with the TR-808s and all that stuff, they were imported as the blueprints. I mean, they were part of, not those sounds, but they all that the parts were rewritten.
Okay.
And the drummer, even Trevor had this kind of sound. He asked the drummer, can't remember his name, apologies if you're listening. He actually asked him to play with one stick because he just wanted the gatedness that he got because it was using a programmed drum machine, and
Okay.
and a live drummer couldn't act. So he said, try and do the snare, just but not playing with two because you're going to get a different sort of feel. Very interesting, huh?
Yeah, yeah. Again, very
So
forward thinking.
yeah.
Yeah. You can see
And
why
it
he's called, you can see why he's nicknamed Mr. 80s, right?
and then we just went on and on. And when we got to, so that's when I met Simon Darlow, who was brought in to be one of the keyboard players, and
Mm.
Anne Dudley, whose string writing is just sublime. And then that's when they ripped out. So we were at Psalm East. They ripped out the Neve desk, and I cried. I was actually in the studio. I cried because they brought in this SSL desk, the solid state logic desk, and I cried. I went, Trevor, you're taking our sound away. I really believe that. I was
Mm.
just so upset. He went, don't worry, darling, it will be okay. I went,
And it
you know,
certainly was.
and then they bring the SSL in with the Fairlight, with the men in white coats, scientists, to start working this equipment.
That's
And then Trevor
amazing.
goes, can you sing something into this for me? Can you just do a la? And that was la, 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 la. And he said, okay, do it again. And we layered it up and we tracked it up a bit. And then he put it into the Fairlight and he went, check this out. And we're all going, wow,
Yeah.
it was a moment. It
Yeah.
really was.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can imagine. I can really imagine. Did there ever come a time when you just thought to yourself, you and David, we've made it. We're actually here. We've made it.
For me, not really. In one sense, yes, because I felt so secure for the first time with the 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 records. I
Yeah.
knew they were sort of forever record. I just knew they were because of the sound, but you couldn't kind of dissect it. It wasn't a melody or a lyric or a groove it was everything.
They're timeless.
You know, it was kind of like so like locked in sync together. And but the irony of that is I felt that like speed of lightning, things were moving so fast. And David and I were very different by then. And he was really enjoying the success.
Mm,
Quite right, that's fine, and
mm,
I was terrified. So for me, and it became more and more that way, the second that we saw, and they were like my babies, the records, and the second that they got away and we knew they were safe and they were on their trajectory, however well they would do, um, a lot of marketing, yes, of course, but you've got to have natural uptick. You've got to, people love it. You can't manufacture hits all the time.
yeah,
But the second that I knew that one, I'd go home and I'd be going, oh, what next? What next? How are we going to follow that up? And you kept raising the bar all the time. And for me, that was really, really challenging. So I never really got the full enjoy. I do now,
yeah,
decades later. I
yeah,
really appreciate the brilliance. But back in that spotlight, not so much.
yeah.
That's just me. That's just, care a bit too much about the music, probably.
Mm,
Do you
what?
that part of your
Yeah, I completely understand because one of the words that I always use, Teresa, when I speak to people is the word momentum. Yeah, it's so
yeah.
important to keep momentum going and don't get
Yeah,
wrapped up in the success that you might have 1 month, but 4 months later when you release another track, you don't have that same sort of success. And it's always about keeping the momentum. And I always felt with us personally, there was never any momentum. There was when we had our first top 10 hit. And then I was like, right, now we really need to kick on. Now
yeah.
we need the momentum to gather speed. And the exact opposite happened, and it absolutely drove me mad. Was that your kind of track of thought about momentum?
It was a little bit because Mirror Mirror was such a bit hidden. Thank
Yeah,
goodness that the video, again, still really close to the video director of that. So that video and those records went on for like 16 weeks or so. That's
yeah,
such a long time.
yeah.
It bought us time. But Give Me Back My Heart, because of the change of desk and the fairlight, etc., and the sound changing and becoming more orchestral in some ways, but poppier in other ways. It was
Mm,
just the bandwidth was enlarging, the scope was getting bigger. That I remember, we were with WEA, Warner Electric Atlantic then, and it was taking a while because Trevor was kind of, we were going out to sort of like to stars that we never visited to get this sound right. And obviously the costs were skyrocketing.
mm.
And they came down for a playback in the studio because I remember that. And I'm thinking they're just going to say, take it as it is. And I so respected Trevor. And I thought he just needs to be given the time to finish the job properly because he's a true artist. You can't rush these things. If he wants to spend 6 hours on something because it's bothering him, he should be allowed to do that. But of course, that wasn't thinking about the business side of life. So they came to the studio and he played it back to them. And they just went, right, just could you get it to us as soon as you possibly can? And they just walked because they knew. They knew it was a masterpiece. They just knew.
Mm.
And and, and it just took a little while longer. But not stealing the thunder for all your stories, but can I tell you what happened at the end of Give Me Back My Heart, unless that's on your list of things to ask
Please, no,
me?
please go ahead. Please, please.
So I'm with Trevor late at night in the studio because all my vocals, I would do minimum eight tracks of every single vocal. And then we bounce it down and sort of maybe compress it a bit. Gary Lang his engineer, but that was the sound we created, a bit like the Wall of Sound, in the late 60s, with all the those kind of the Shangri-Las and all that kind of that sort of thing. So that's how we did it. And the very end, Trevor said quite late, well, late, it would have been like 9, 9:30, 10 o'clock. He goes, just had this idea for the ending. And he pulls out this scrappy piece of paper with these lyrics on. He said, do you reckon just on the ending when it changes the time frame, it goes into 3/4 rhythm, which again was just a mistake. Simon Darlow told me they programmed the drum machine, and for some reason Trevor hit something different. It goes into 3/4 time at the end. And
Okay.
Simon went, it's lovely, because they didn't know how to end it. They
Okay.
said, just leave it and work with that. So Trevor went home and wrote some lyrics actually about his dog. And he said, could you, he said, could you just go in and sing something? I said, what? Just make it up. He said, yeah. I went, okay. Because that is my safe place in the studio. You know, I
Yeah.
am comfortable there if the people around me give me some confidence. So he plays it through and I sing this and then, and he looks at me and he's just smiling. And I went, well, should we do it again? He goes, no, it's great. He said, you sound like Julie Andrews.
Oh,
And
okay.
what he didn't know was, as a very little girl, I used to listen to The Sound of Music all the time. And all I wanted to be was Julie Andrews. So he had no idea it was the greatest compliment. And that's the only take. That is the take on the end of, he said, don't do it again. It's perfect.
Oh, brilliant.
That was it.
Yeah. That's
It's
so
about his
cool.
girl.
Yeah.
It's
It's
about his
amazing.
girl.
Amazing. Um,
Huh? Sorry about
yeah, no,
joke.
no, that again,
It's,
I love it. I love it. All these little snippets are just absolutely brilliant. Thank you for sharing it with me. If you don't mind, I would like to ask you about your relationship with David. Just one very
yeah.
simple question for you. And I hope this makes sense to you. So when I was in Bad Boys Inc., I had a girlfriend. I had a girlfriend before Bad Boys Inc., and she was with me for the whole duration. But the story of me having a girlfriend did not fit the narrative. You and David, even though you were a couple, and I've looked back at some of your interviews, and you were quite obviously very much in love. But do you think that your relationship absolutely had to fit a narrative?
Um, yes. Yes is the honest answer.
Yeah,
It was the perfect um wrapped up with a bow for the
yeah,
marketing people, of course.
yeah.
Yeah. And
But did that take anything away from your relationship?
definitely, definitely.
Hmm.
Because you can't, I mean, we were babies and then we were very young in our 20s. I mean, you can't do anything and go anywhere because you're public property.
Yeah.
So, of course, so therefore you're just play acting a lot and you can't ever be yourselves. And the only other time you can be yourselves when you've got three suitcases on the go and it's not glamorous and you don't have housekeepers and living in a split spot gorgeous home. It's all chaos, basically. Uh, so yes, it takes its toll.
Hmm.
And then the more it takes its toll, the more you try and hold on to what you've got because you're not sure how important a part of the whole success story that is.
Yeah. Because you guys split up in first time you split up, I read in 1983 while you were
Hmm.
in Tokyo. Is that correct?
Yeah,
Yeah.
here we go, Tokyo
That,
again.
that
Absolutely.
that's a long way to come home with that on your mind. How difficult was that a period for you?
Uh, it was really difficult, but actually I didn't come home. Home was the UK then. I didn't because we've been having a conversation with an American manager who actually managed Foreigner, biggest
Ah,
rock band
okay.
in the US, called Bud Prager. And he was very interested in managing us because he was Foreigner with Atlantic,
Yeah.
and it was WA Warner Electra Atlantic. And they were seriously thinking of breaking us into the US market. And he was very interested. And we'd been having conversations. And I phoned him from Tokyo and I went, Bud, this is what's happening. He went, right. I said, I don't really know what to do, which is not really, I'm kind of quite a control, don't really panic that often. I
Hmm.
said, but I just don't know what to do. And he said, well, what you're going to do is you're going to tell the record company to change your ticket. You're going to get a flight to Hawaii. You're going to stay at the Kahala Hilton for 2 nights to just recover a little bit and have a bit of rest. And then you're going to come to New York and we're going to have a chat. And I went, right. And that's what I did. And I got to New York and Bud said, well, Dollar split up. And he said, but I'm going to manage you.
Okay.
And I said, to do what? He said, you're going to make a solo album. I went, no, no, no. He said, You are. And I went, he is not a man you argue with, I promise you. He's no longer with us. He was about 6'2", had the most fabulous smile, white curly hair, and he managed one of the biggest American rock band in the world. I'm going, okay, he said, we're going to make you the English answer to Madonna.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Oh,
That's
okay.
pressure. You mean?
And so that's what happened. So yeah. And then I went home to England.
Yeah. Okay. So actually, so that transition was actually okay. Quite exciting,
It
I
was,
guess.
it was, I felt very small, very humble and very small, and thought, what do I know about life? These are the big people making the big decisions. I don't know. He
Yeah.
said, I'll sort everything out. And for what? Just the fact that I will sort everything out, your record deal, what happens, whatever. And I'm going, and I actually, but I did say, but I really would like Trevor. And I said, that will make it all okay. And he said, absolutely. And
Yeah.
we tried for about 14 months, 15 months. Um, and Trevor was up for it. And things kept changing and changing.
Mm.
So it never happened. But that really was, yeah. So that was that.
Yeah. Let's skip forward again to when you and David came back together. Um, and with the hit Ola More, which eventually settles at number seven. Watched your Top of the Pops performance, which was absolutely fantastic. But what I did notice was I checked out the British chart archive to see how the record performed over time. Gosh, it was a slow burner to get to number seven. Did you feel frustration in and around that time?
Not at all. I felt gratitude.
Did
Uh,
you?
yes, because
Yeah.
in the end, I had so much frustration. We came back with actually, we walked in love, went back with Chris Neal, beautiful record, a little bit too soft for the time in the 80s, but a really classic, gorgeous kind of love lost record. I thought was great. And kind of a racy sort of video as well, which I was most unhappy recording. But and that kind of charted, but not didn't really get the legs to go. And
Mm,
then uh, we did Haven't We Said Goodbye Before, which was we went to did a Philly sound, which was an Anne Dudley record, and I thought that was a brilliant song. Again, a bit too strange, not the vintage dollar that people wanted,
mm,
trying to the envelope. And then finally I thought, well, blow it. It was almost like my swan song. I'm going to do something, do it myself. And it took a lot to get me to that, but I kind of discovered that track on the Erasure album because I bought the wrong LP and thought, oh, well, I better the CD. I thought, well, I'll play this in the car. And I heard All I'm On. I thought, oh. So I
mm,
always play something like that 4 or 5 times. It's just my thing. And if after 5 times I'm absolutely hook, line, and sing, I go, oh, okay. And so I ended up making that myself and producing it myself. And then I thought, well, who's going to be bothered to listen? Got to find the trendiest, coolest mismatch of dollar and London records.
okay.
Roger Ames, Tracy Bennett, so cool with Banana Rama and everything going on. They're all walking around in their cool clothes and stuff. I'm going, oh, but the record itself that fitted within their remit, but not the brand. I thought, well, forget the brand. And hence how clever is that? Don't use our faces on the
Mm,
7 inch.
mm,
It's the cartoon of Superman.
yeah.
Unbelievably brilliant, just brilliance. And so that's how that worked. And of course, it's going to be a slow burner because we were stopping it. I'm pretty sure that was fair. The dollar brand was stopping people from going, this is bloody great. What a fab track. But then once it got some traction, people then, it took a lot of breaking barriers down to what people thought about us as performers, which is, I think,
Mm.
sad, but I think it's fair to say I think that's true.
So, okay, so you think, okay, that's interesting because can I compare this with Boyzone? And I really hope you get where
Yeah.
I'm coming from with this. So when Boyzone first came out, When Love Me for a Reason came out, nobody knew it was a boy band. Nobody knew there were five faces behind Boyzone. They just heard this track. And I
Mm.
thought that was genius because I've always wondered if there are five faces out there when it was getting sold to record companies and to radio playlists and all that, whether they would have taken it if they'd known it's another boy band.
That's what I mean. Sometimes sort of to be sort of insignificant, sort of no visibility, just judge the record on its
Yes,
merit. Nothing
yes,
to draw you away from it, distract you with a negative. It's so it's kind of interesting, and I'm pretty sure that's what happened with Olamore.
yeah,
And
but
thank goodness London had the foresight to kind of go, well, we'll go with it, and not kind of say we love it, but we don't love you. They didn't.
yeah, but it's great because all of a sudden people go, "Oh my God, it's Teresa and David. Oh my God, it's Dollar."
Yeah,
It was almost like that sort of reaction. It's like a pleasant surprise when they discover, oh my God, it's Teresa and David. Do you know what I
yeah,
mean?
and they can be quite cool and make really cool things that we love
Yeah,
to dance
yeah,
to
yeah,
and listen to in our club.
yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. To finish off, Teresa, I'd like to speak to you about, at the time of recording, you've got a new track out called Train That Never Comes. Have I got that right? Yeah. Um,
Yes, you do.
how's it all going?
It's going really well. I mean, I find it fascinating that I'm still interested in the heritage chart because that
Yeah,
like tracks how us olds or older performers or evergreens or whatever we want to call ourselves, with the invincibles, I think it's probably better. We will never stop till we can't do it anymore. But it's still interesting that we all want to see ourselves in a chart and going, why do I still want to know the number? But I
yeah,
do.
yeah.
That's just programming, I think, for decades.
Mm.
It's it's great. I'm very, very I always want to be proud of things that I release. I really do. The one thing I won't compromise, in is my musical offering. And if I think something's pretty poor or even average, I just not interested really, don't
Yeah,
need to.
yeah,
So I'm proud of it. I think it's entrancing. I think it's
yeah.
got a lovely vibe,
And
and I think it's got, yeah.
I
What do
listened.
you think?
Yeah, well, I listened to it last night, and I was like, oh, I wasn't quite expecting this. This is cool. It's quite techno. Is that the right terminology?
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah. And I was like,
it is.
oh, okay, hang on. First and foremost, your vocals sound great. And I was just like, this is cool. I confess, I played it twice because I enjoyed it. It was really good, and I wasn't expecting it at all. It's really good. But what I'm intrigued now is, I don't recognize the music industry at all now. When I speak to people who were in and around my time and they're still performing and releasing records and albums now, it's so different to them. And they've had to re educate themselves about how the modern world works in terms of how releasing music. How's that process been for you?
Um, Not so difficult because I love working with intra generations. So I'm working with people who, and it's, as opposed to being stuck in your particular genre and you're just
Yeah.
surrounded by the people you've been working with for the last 25, 30 years. I'm not like that. So I'm working with people who are 15 years my junior and then 30 years my junior. I'm working with my great nephew on stuff who's 23.
Oh,
Um,
brilliant.
and we get along and we'll do stuff. And he's so techno savvy and doing this AI stuff and everything. I'm going, that's cool. And then I'll suggest something, he goes, that's cool.
Yeah.
Because so I think that is a wonderful moment in time when we've got so much tech and so many interesting things we can use. But some of the really old-fashioned things that we learned that are the building blocks of music as we know it today,
Mm.
they're still relevant. So I think that's partly, and that's a little bit like Train, abbreviated Train. It's got references back to the 80s, but it sounds very modern.
Yeah. Yeah.
And kind of that was part of the idea. If we could get the hybrid dollar, smooth, kind of almost dark, cool tones of music with gorgeous soaring melodies, but with modern kind of sounds and a bit of empty, it's the space, as Trevor always said, it's what you leave out that matters.
Mm. Yeah, I wish you every success with it, and I wish you every success going forward as well. And I'm absolutely delighted that you're still recording, you're still there, you still have a love and a passion for it. And thank you so much for coming on. I've loved talking to you. Thank you.
Thanks so much for having me. And yeah, well, hopefully we can do it again. We'll talk about more music another time.
Would love to.
Thanks,
Enjoy the rest of
guys.
your day. Take good care of yourself. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye. So there you have it. I really hope you enjoyed today's chat with Thereza, and if you did, I would be very grateful if you would please consider subscribing to The Accidental Pop Star here on YouTube. It doesn't cost you a bean. All it does means you are following me, very much like you do on social media. It just helps with the algorithm and build the channel as we go further and further ahead. I have many more interviews lined up. I really hope you can join me and stay with me. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Bye for now.